Yeah, Jim Layton, CEO of a vertical farming company. I've been in consumer packaged goods, food and beverage for over 42 years. Grew up in operations, and during those 42 years, have found whiteboards, as we call them, extremely valuable in our operation and in working with Amerisan as well as Tony, kind of as our point person in my current position. We rolled this out about 5 or 6 months ago. And these boards and the use of these boards are in thousands, if not more than that, facilities. I started using them at ConAgra Foods, moved them to then Purdue, and all the way to using them in Australia. Tony and his team have been extremely supportive relative to providing and just exceptional service and support. Yeah, I'll never forget this. And when we rolled this out at Purdue's, then their largest facility, and it was a facility they just acquired. It's over 1 million square feet. It's in Perry, Georgia, and it's what they referred to in the poultry industry as a primary processing plant, where all the live chickens come in. And then it also had a further processing plant where they make things like chicken nuggets and so forth, and in the middle of the distribution center. But anyway, because we had over 2,000 employees in this facility, over 1 million square feet, it's like, wow, this project is too big. How can we do this? How can we impact the culture in such a way that we can significantly reduce turnover by significantly increasing engagement, and to make it somewhat emotive? And the way we did that is we picked one unit of operation. I'll never forget it. We had about 12 people in this unit of operation, which was the front end of the plant. And we taught them how to use these boards. And then all of a sudden, about a week or a week and a half into it, people were noticing, what are they doing over there? Like, these people are having fun. I want to drink some of that Kool-Aid. And then we rolled it out to the entire plant. Then we rolled it out to all the plants. And then when Jim Purdue came and he saw this, he went back in the annual meeting. He stood up in front of everyone who was there and he said, what these people have done with these boards and this operating system in the operations of this is what I'm going to do and I want to do across the entire company. So the key learning to me is this is transferable, not just within operations and facilities, but also just general management practices. Yeah, the shadow boards bring a lot of benefits to the operation, and the way, again, that I think about this is around people, products, and profitability. So if I take each one of these, people, if people don't know where to go to get something, it can become very frustrating. So that alone, just, and then it can become very negative and emotive and so forth and so on. So that's really important that we provide an environment that that you want people to show up to work and live in that environment. And that's why we 5S our facilities. Everything is set, it's placed, it's sustained, and it's very neat. People know what to do with and how to do it. That relates to also quality and service. As it relates to quality, if in the food industry you use the wrong utensil for the wrong use, you can very easily end up with a recall. And recalls not only cost a lot of money, the financial pain of a recall is significant, but the reputational damage that it does to your company and your brand lasts forever. So it's extremely important that we properly train people. We have these shadow boards and people know how to use it. On profitability, imagine just a line going down because we can't find the stuff we need to in order to either run the line or repair the line or whatever. So again, this is an integrated approach, a closed loop operating system, and the shadow boards are an integral part of that. Yeah, so one of the things that assists in solving these problems around people and product and profitability is to properly organize any facility. And the best way to organize a facility, I found, is to implement a 5S program. And when you 5S a program, I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but one of the things that's very helpful, it's basically a way to organize things where you know exactly where everything is every day, which makes it very easy for the employees who actually do the work to know where to reach, how to reach, and so forth. And we use shadow boards for that. So imagine walking through a facility and you'll see color-coded on the shadow board the different colors for different brooms and different shovels and things that you use in canisters and so forth that basically designate that for the proper use of that. And then the reason they're called shadow boards is there's an outline for, say, a shovel that's hanging there, or a broom that's hanging there, or whatever it is. And so it's just a great way to organize a facility where people know exactly where things are every day. And it's very noticeable if they're missing. It's also critically important in the food business for food safety, to make sure that people are using the proper tools and so forth. But I think the key word relative to that, we're talking about two different things in nomenclature. One are shadow boards, and shadow boards as it relates to food safety and organization and 5Sing and all that kind of stuff. The other is I refer to as whiteboards or KPI boards, and that's the people, product, and profitability boards. That's what we currently have in Kalera. But my point is that both of those are part of a fully integrated process and system. And without those, the entire system falls apart. So it's extremely important that we have those. And again, it drives three major things. It drives alignment to make sure everybody understands what the main KPIs are. It drives engagement. So people want to know if they're winning or losing, frankly. And when they go home at night, we want them talking to their spouses, their friends and family about, I had a great day today, or if I didn't, I know that people are going to pick me up and help me tomorrow. So it's alignment, capabilities, and engagement, and the boards are a very critical part of that. And Amerisan does a great job allowing us to brand those ourselves. So it's not like it's off the shelf with Amerisan's name all over it. It's particular to whatever that company is. Because what I've seen people reject is when you say, well, this is so-and-so's way of doing this. We don't want so-and-so's way of doing it. We want our way of doing it. So I had the opportunity to join Purdue, which is a third-generation family-owned company. Most of you in the United States probably know them as Purdue Poultry, but I was hired by Jim to basically learn the business, number one, and number two is eventually run the business as a president. And when I arrived in that industry, the poultry industry, I noticed that there was a major problem and opportunity. The first was turnover. Turnover in that industry can reach up to 100%. And although Purdue was favorable to the industry, I just saw this as a huge problem. As a matter of fact, I defined it as the root of all evil. And if you don't take care of your people and take over turnover and have consistent, reliable people who come in and train and know when they're winning and when they're not, it never leads to a good outcome. So that's when we started using the boards, and we laid them out with metrics around people, product, and profitability, and then later also added planet. And on each shadow board, we have two key metrics for every unit of operation within a facility. So imagine the people, it's typically retention, glass half full versus glass half empty of turnover, as well as safety. So, and we intentionally did this to put people first. So people goes first. Most of the people in the United States read from left to right. So we set the boards up with people on the left, and in the middle, we have product. What do we measure in product? We measure quality and service. Those are the two most important things. Philosophically, if you get it right by your people, if you get it right by your product, then you're going to generate the necessary profits. And that's how we use the board. One of the boards, one of the most important parts of this, though, is it significantly improves the level of engagement. You can walk through a facility as an executive, for instance. As you walk through the facility, you already know what the outcome of the day is going to be. And I always ask a plant manager, how's the month looking? And if the plant manager comes back and says to me, I don't know, and I won't know until we close the books, that's the wrong answer. If you have these boards in place and you're using them and you're walking through this facility every day and you're walking past them in the various units of operation, you know immediately if you're winning or losing across people, products, and profitability. So that really raises the level of engagement. as well as implementing what we call a closed loop management operating system, where we're having daily huddles every morning at the beginning of the shift to review the previous day's KPIs. And if we are red and green, that's how we color the KPIs to know immediately visually. You don't have to look at the numbers.
Yep,
if it's
absolutely.
red, there's areas for improvement. Then you discuss with the closed group, what are those areas of opportunity? It's logged into an action item, and then that action item is reviewed on a weekly basis as part of that closed operating system by management. And then the next week, we get back to the hourly employees who came up with the idea and say, we're going to do one of three things with that. We're going to implement it. Thank you very much. We're not going to implement it right now, but we're going to consider implementing it later. Or for whatever reason, we're not going to implement it. And here's why. And that's why we refer to this as a closed loop operating system. And you really can't do that without these shadow boards in place. Yeah, I found Amerisan and Tony and his team incredibly easy to work with. And the way that I think about this is I have a picture in my head. I need to get that picture out, a concept of what this is going to look like. I literally tried to draw it on a napkin, and that's about it. And then handed it over. And Tony and his team, it's somewhat iterative, but it didn't take long. We had the design done, and then the boards were in place. So because they've done this in so many different operations, they have a pretty good feel. Is if you give them a concept, they know what works, what doesn't work, and so forth, and they will give you back a product that not only will you be proud of, but is extremely effective in the workplace.